Good to see everybody here. I know we'll have some more folks trickling in as class begins. I'm excited about our speaker and presenter today. Dorian Flynn is a wonderful man, preacher, missionary. He and his wife, Sherry, coordinate Partners for Africa, and he's going to tell you a lot about that this morning. And he's been here with us before, but he's going to be giving us some updates and sharing some of the good news and also some of the work that we've been able to help with as a church. And so we're glad that he's here. He's going to be leaving next week to head back to Zimbabwe, and so we're really excited to have him here with us. He's going to be talking this morning about the work with Partners for Africa, and then he'll be speaking during our worship hour, and I know that you'll be blessed by him being here. So we're going to have a quick word of prayer if you'll bow with me, and then Brother Dorian will have the rest of the time. Let's pray. Lord, we're so thankful for this day, for everyone that's here. We ask that you keep everyone safe as they travel in bad weather. We just ask that you will be with those people who are dealing with the results of really bad weather last week, those folks in Lee County, Alabama, and Harris County, Georgia, and people that are near to my heart, and just pray that you'll bless them. We pray for those that are hurting and suffering. We especially pray for Ann Johnson, who lost her family member in Kentucky and who's up there for the funeral. We just pray that you'll be with Ann and be with John as he travels to be with her. Father, there's so many that are hurting and struggling, and we just ask that you will give them that peace that passes understanding today. We're so thankful for this group of people that meets here, this body that wears the name Christian and can look to your Son as the head and to you as the God of this world and the creator of the universe. And we just thank you for it. We pray that we'll be attentive to Brother Dorian's thoughts today. We're so thankful for the work that he does, and we pray that you'll continue to bless it for many years to come. We thank you so much for how you bless us and how you take care of us. And it's through your Son we pray. Amen.
Well, it's a joy to be here with you all. I left Alabama, it was raining, and I got here and I thought maybe you would see sunshine, but you're all in the same predicament. I joked with people last week that I was looking for a rainbow, hunt for a rainbow. Couldn't find a rainbow, so I went online looking for gopher wood, one of the two. But it is really good to be here with you all. That picture you see of those elephants is quite interesting because, every team that we take, we like to have a block of maybe a couple of days where we can go on a safari. And so we had got up to this water hole. I saw the elephant there. I was so excited, we drove up and everybody's taking pictures. And then somebody said, Dorian, turn around. And when I turned around, there was another 30 elephant, another family coming to the water hole. And for a few minutes there, we were surrounded just by elephants. I mean, I couldn't go anywhere, Of course, our prayer life increased immensely. But we are so thankful that you've been part of our work, and it's been so successful this past year, as it has been the last 11 years. We've had over 1,000 baptisms this year. And it is an absolute joy to see how you begin in one country and you begin with this one congregation, and then it just starts building. And I tell people that we're in a sweet spot in Southern Africa because the receptivity is just immense. I'm sure you've heard this before, but with Africa and also with India, in Africa, where we work, right there is more churches of Christ than there is in the United States, and the graph is pointing upward. We are growing immensely. It's one thing to baptize a lot of people. It's another thing to help them transition from being a babe in Christ to maturity. Peter wrote in 1 Peter Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 3, he talked about I'm going to mention a little bit of this in the next session, but he talked about the Corinthians being on milk. He couldn't get them past that. One of the things that we're trying to do in order to keep that retention between 79 and 80%, one of the things that we're trying to do is, that we are doing, is we try to plug them in and connect with the church in 3 different ways. We want them to be part of an intense study group so that they're getting to know the Word. We want them to participate in the works of the church as far as our outreach and evangelism, and you'll see we're doing a lot of things in that way. And we want them to become a team, be part of a team. And then also we want them to be part of a group that cares for those that are widows, children that are orphans. And those three different levels, we are able to keep the retention rate to be very strong. And so we are thankful for that. This happened in December. There was 9 that were immersed into Christ between Zambia and Zimbabwe. And you have to be careful. That river is laden with crocodiles and hippos. So you kind of have to have a scout to look, you know. It's kind of amusing when we have people that come with us and they say, well, why are they waiting? Why don't we baptize them right away? Well, they got to go find long poles, and they got to stick the poles in the water just to make sure there's no crocodiles, you know, which helps towards a successful baptism, you know. This picture I like. This is one of the wells that we drilled. This is at a city center Church of Christ, and the husband is baptizing this person that had come forward. Well, his wife was standing there, and she saw her husband put him down, but his feet came up. So she decided, I got to help you. So she kept the feet out, and she said, you need to do him again. So, you know, it's immersion. It's not partial, you know. So I like that one. This guy's so happy, and I just love the joy, and we see that constantly. We head back to Africa a week from Wednesday, and this is one of the joys that we experience while we're there. Who would have thought 11 years ago that we would have gatherings like this? And I'm not talking about just a church gathering. This is not, or multiple congregations. These are just leaders from Southern Africa that have come together. And we spend 4 to 5 days in intensive study from early morning to late evening. And it's intense, because a lot of these preachers are going to go, and ministers are going to go back, and teachers, women teachers, they're going to go back to their congregations, and we want to give them a body of work and material, because they don't have access that we do to bookstores, or in our day and age, the internet, not all of them. So we want to give them a lot of material, and we want to answer their questions. We want to know the challenges that they're going through in their local works. And so it's quite amazing to have over 1,000 people that were, quote, almost non-existent 11 years ago. And so we're thankful for that. This is the picture that really gets me. These are all ministers. This was in the bush, in deep rural Zimbabwe. These guys, some of them walked 3 hours in the morning, and some of them got up early because they wanted to get the best seat. Of course, I'm joking. But they sat there from 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Now, they've got to walk back to their villages, so we've got to give them enough daylight to get back through the bush, some of them. Some of them had transport, but not most of them. But I was just touched as I'm teaching, and others are teaching also, but I am just so touched. My heart, from time to time, they just sat there. I mean, they didn't move. They didn't say, well, I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to get up. They sat there, and they locked into what we were saying. And as I mentioned, that we're in a sweet spot because we've got people that are thirsty. And I thought to myself, you know, these are ministers. And if this is the kind of attitude, commitment, focus that they have, then you know their congregations are going to grow over the years. And so we're just thankful. One of the ministers is a brother Jubani. He's also a great song leader. He's 69. And I spoke to him after he got home because he was heading back into a densely wildlife area. I mean, it's a wildlife park, basically. It's where all these villages are, and they live amongst lions and elephants and hyena and all of that. And so they got to get home by the time, you know, it gets dark. And so he said he had got the bus he had to get a later bus, and so he's walking down his path, and he said behind him 2 hyenas start following him. And I mean, he don't have a gun or anything, you know. I said, well, what did you do, you know, because he's standing here talking to me. He said, I just told him to just get away, you know. So apparently his confidence must have so I was quite amazed. But anyway, not something that we would have to face here. So right now we are working with 1,200 preachers, teachers, youth leaders, and we're excited about what the church is doing. And we're working in 5 countries, which is Zimbabwe, Zambia, Swaziland, Lesotho, and northern South Africa. And let me just say this about myself. You know, I was born in Cape Town, South Africa, and I grew up in Zimbabwe. So this is special to me, that at the time in my life, I can come back there now and we can do this work together with people that I grew up with, or people's children that I'm working with now too. And it's really special. And I want you to know, I'm not dragging my wife. Now, my wife isn't here, but she's told me to say this, that next time she will be here. But we're leaving in a week, and we had some grandchildren come in, so who's going to win, you know? So she wanted to spend time with grandchildren because we're going to be gone for several months. But my wife, when we met, and I guess you can talk as God's providence or what, we met at Harding, and she... at that time, she had teamed up with another girl. They were both single, and their intention was to do mission work in South Africa. And then we met, and she decided that she'd rather go with me than with her. And I like that. But I'm just saying that this is a team effort right now, you know. Not only that, we have our oldest son that is heading up the ACT project, and we have my daughter that is doing all our communication. In fact, all our advertising, everything, she's doing it for us. So we're glad for that. This is one of the churches that was 2 years ago. This church was planted, and you know, it just the reason I show this is because cultures are different. You know, you can grow a church in Africa, in rural Africa, and you don't necessarily have to have a facility, because their facility is that tree. That's you know, so they don't have to worry about putting on an addition as their congregation grows. Now, once we drill a well, they will make their own bricks and they'll build their own building. You have a lovely facility here in LJ, and it has proved to be a great instrument for worship and service of God. And it is something that has to be within this culture. And so it's just different. But that church has grown, that rural church, it's just unbelievable. Bibles, because of all the people that we're teaching the gospel. Do you know right now we have 175 home Bible studies going on in the 5 countries. 175, and most of them are families. And so that's one reason why we are constantly needing Bibles. You know, those are all English Bibles that we gave out. Those are young men that have obeyed the gospel, and we had a lot of young women as well. But we have right now, we have 250 families in rural Zimbabwe and that need a Bible. They don't speak English. They're older people that have heard the gospel and obeyed it. And so I'm asking any of you today that might have you know, you're able to spare a few dollars for our Bibles. It's $10 for that hardback Bible. And it'll be for a family. So if any of you want to help, you can, I had already mentioned it to the elders. If you want to make a check out to the elders, and they'll send us the total money. But anyway, we want you to think about that. It's needed, desperately needed. And these are some of the young people. We had already bought some, and they were about to leave. These young people, they all speak English. So when you bring a team next year, all the adults up to the age of about 35 to 40, they all speak English. They speak other languages too, their native languages, but they speak English. But they were about to head into the rural areas to go distribute and give to people, you know. This is a Bible study going on in a rural area, and that's Haley. He's a guy that him and his wife, they oversee our Partners for Africa Center there. But those women and men, they were so happy that they got a Bible, and they said, you can't just give us the Bible, you've got to sit down and have a Bible study right now. So he said I had to sit, and they studied for about an hour, he said, but so excited. We work with young people, and we have a lot of leadership seminars. YES stands for Youth Exalting the Son, and we work with young people that are showing the penchant to want to serve the Lord, and you know, in greater ways. And so we work with them. And this is one area in northern South Africa. Every Christmas, right after Christmas, we meet with them, because that's when they have their longest school holidays. Because in Africa, summertime is different. Summertime is around Christmas. And so that's when they have their 6 weeks of holiday, kind of like summer holidays. And so we met with them, and of course they had a good time, but they also did a lot of study as well. This is a preschool that we just set up at one of our congregations, and this was the first year. This was their graduation, and then after that, they did some cultural performance for us. But this church has really made a difference. So what happens? This is a global phenomenon. When you get a lot of young people together, some tend to like each other. It happens here and it happens there. So we've got so many young people. Do you know that right now we have 15,000 high school and college students that are taking World Bible School? And that's because of our containers. We ship these containers over, and these containers have textbooks in them. And so we will go to a public school and we'll say, we have math textbooks for you. We have English reading and that. We want to give it to you. We only ask for one thing. Will you allow us to just present a World Bible School to the student body at assembly? Man, we have not been turned down because they need those textbooks so bad. Well, you know what happens? Those principals, they say not only will they let us do that they will let the students who can't afford postage, let the students bring it to the school office once they finish the lesson. We go pick it up because we've got World Bible School students, World Bible School office there, and we will grade it, and that's a 10-day turnaround. And that's one reason why these young people are connecting with us, because we keep up the enthusiasm, man. You know, they finish their lesson, and then we invite them to our downtown. Well, let me just tell you, we have a downtown facility that was an old Chevrolet dealership, because in Africa, downtown is where everything still happens. All buses lead to downtown. The economy is still vibrant, which I was surprised driving here yesterday, seeing all the action downtown here, man. That's great. You don't see it everywhere in the U.S. like in small towns. But in Africa, and Bulawayo is a city of about 1.4 million, the greater Bulawayo. So here, these young people, they plug into what we're doing. We have weekly devotionals, we have fellowships and all of that. So they will naturally gravitate. Well, here's a couple that gravitated together. His name is Paka, her name is Z. But when it happens in Africa, it's not like in the United States. So a young girl and a young guy finally concluded that they really like each other and they want to spend the rest of their lives together. So what happens next is she has to go get her favorite uncle, and he gets his favorite uncle. And now the negotiation begins, because they have to negotiate how valuable she is. And it's evaluated by how much cattle she's worth. And so to this day, it's still done. Even with, do you know that there are Africans that come to the U.S. that earn PhDs? And if they marry a young lady from back home, they still got to go back home, and they still got to negotiate in the village with the family and the chief and all of them. You know, but so anyway, Parker, he's got an idea that you know, in his mind, you know, she is just the most beautiful woman in the world, but that she is super valuable in the sense of what she's accomplished. And he figures he's not going to do any negotiation until he can get enough cattle that he feels like can pay for her. You know, that they will let her get married to him. So he starts working hard. Now, I want you to know she's a university graduate, and she also runs the 400 meters for the nation of Zimbabwe. And she is she's a committed Christian. Well, he is too, but that all goes against him in that sense, you know. So he works for 2 years, and he saves up enough money for 10 head of cattle. And let me tell you, that's about $800 a head. That is a fortune for a young guy. He worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs, you know. So now it's the day of negotiation. His uncle and him are going to meet. The families have agreed. He feels good. He's got his 10 cattle. I mean, he knows he's got that. And so he gets to the yard of their home, and the gates close. And he's telling me now afterwards, he says, I just want you to know that we stood there for an hour. I said, why'd you stand at the gate for an hour? I said, didn't the family know you were there? They said, yes, they knew you were there. We were there, but I wasn't going to open up the gate because that would show arrogance and they might charge me more cattle. So he waits there, and then they call him in. So him and his uncle go into the house. He says, I sat on the floor because they didn't say sit on the seat. Sat on the floor. And so he speaks to her parents. And then the uncle says, listen, you can tell this young man loves your daughter, and he wants to spend the rest of his life, and he is committed to God. You have seen his life over the last few years. And we have 10 cattle. The father just looks at Paka and he just shakes his head. No way, 13 head. Well, he's just devastated because he knows it's going to be the long haul now, another 3 head of cattle. Well, the grandmother, Z's grandmother, the bride's grandmother's in the back. She's hearing all of this. She comes forward. She comes into the living room and she says, I've heard the negotiations. We know, talking about our family, we know that this young man is a fine young man. He's worked hard to get this cattle. We know that he is committed to the Lord. Give him a discount. So then they settled on 10 because grandmother said, you settled on 10. And I told Puck, I said, you better stick close to that grandmother, boy. I'll tell you what. This is how they sit at a wedding. And so that everybody can see the bride come in. Now, we always, we'll tell everybody to stand up and turn around and look as the bride comes in. But they put the seating that way. For worship, they will change the seating, like this. But for the weddings, they don't do that. Now, evangelism, it can happen in 2 ways, or church growth could happen in 2 ways, because this wedding was done 2 years ago. So you can either study and win people to the Lord, or you can just multiply, just like the Greens are doing. So she is about to give birth to their first child in about, I think it's 2 weeks. So it should happen while we're there. So we have the DAD program. This is drilling and drip irrigation. And I said to these little boys, this is at a school where we drilled a well. They had no clean water. Life expectancy is about 30 to 37 years because of all the waterborne diseases. So when you drink that filthy water, you're not going to live long. But we can bring those to those boys and those girls, and it makes all the difference in the world. And so I challenged them to pump a bucket full of water. You can see that one boy's got his arm up because he's telling me, we've got it done. I told him, I said, I don't think you can fill a bucket of water. Well, they ran to that pump boy. They started pumping, took up the challenge. There's a lot of good things that happen besides the good water. The guy wearing the overalls, the blue overalls on the right, I think I might have mentioned the story, but I got a little to add to it. When we started drilling wells, we were looking for somebody really dependable. And everybody told us that Christopher was very dependable. And so we got him, and we were excited about him, but he let us know right from the beginning, I'm not interested in Jesus Christ, I'm not interested in religion. So don't talk to me about religion, but I'm glad you're bringing water to thirsty people. Well, over the years, he would listen to Haley. Haley, with the guy in the red t-shirt, is one of our ministers. He would speak to him about what the Lord was doing in his life, in the congregation where he preaches, and just the stories over the years, because he could tell Christopher wasn't someone you tried to preach to. Well, 2 years ago, Christopher walked in on a Sunday morning when Haley was preaching, and he just said, I want to become a Christian. So, just don't give up on people. You never know what's going on in their hearts, So be as tactful as you can. But anyway, since then, his wife now has obeyed the gospel, and so we're glad. By the way, we have 76 wells. I think the information I left with the elders might be 74. You might be able to change that, and the reason is because you've had 2 wells come online in the last week. So it's 76 wells. You know what our goal was? Our goal was 50 wells in 10 years. It's our 11th year. We've done 76. And you can see from that 39 churches have come from those wells, 39. So we're excited. Oh, by the way, I just want you to see that well right there. That's a solar panel right there pumping the water. We're glad for that. This is all the places. I'm not going to go through them, but I just want you to see this was non-existent. Now we've got churches, we've got evangelism going on. We've got people obeying the gospel just because we drilled a well. It's the evangelistic tool every day. This is the countries where we've drilled wells. In Zambia, Lesotho, South Africa, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, You know, this area that we're working in Africa is about 22 times the size of Georgia. And so it's a large area. Then we have the mom program, and we're feeding these orphans. And it's quite precious to see them. We'll feed them till they're 12 or 13 years old. When I say we feed them with 2 meals every day. They get the physical food, but they also get biblical food every single day. And by the time they leave our feeding program, they're already connected with the congregation. And I mean, they're coming to Sunday school, they're participating in the church in different ways. So we're excited about that. And just as cute as they can be, you know. A lot of them are orphans. Some of their parents have died of AIDS. But we're glad that we can be a positive in their life. When I see all of these children, I always wonder to myself, which one is the next Lydia or the next Paul, you know, out of them, as they reflect back when they become teenagers and they obey the gospel and they say, you know, that group called the Churches of Christ, they came and they started feeding us and caring for us, you know, and to see them. This is a feeding that was taken at Saturday a week ago. And it's about 200 children that we feed every week. And we've already got a church established on that school property. And all those children, I wouldn't say all, most of them, about 160 come to Sunday school. So those places where we haven't drilled, we try to feed during the dry season. They have about 4.5, 5 months rainy season, and then it's done. And they don't get any more rain until the next rainy season. So there's drought areas. So there's a cabbage, and there's bags of mealie meal. There's about 10 kg, 22.2 pounds. And they will put it on their head, and they'll walk back to their village, and they'll be so excited because that bag will feed a family of 4 for about a month. And they work out a lovely cereal in the morning, and then they have something more heavier in the afternoon for supper. Some of the clothes that have been sent and we have distributed, we are thankful for that. We have shipped our 38th and 39th container in 11 years. You know, each container has 1,250 banana boxes. I know that now because I've done enough of it. And it fits just perfectly. And we want to thank Walmart and Kroger and all those places, because I'm looking at over 55,000 banana boxes, man. I tell you what, but it's amazing. You know that people say, what happens to all those banana boxes? You know what happens to all those banana boxes? In the village areas, becomes their chest of drawers. None of it's wasted. It's quite amazing. You're going to some village, you're going to a village, and there's a hut where 4 people live, and there's 4 banana boxes, and each child has their own banana box, you know, where their clothes go. I just wanted to share this with you. I want to thank you for what you all are doing, but I just want you to know that this church here, and we couldn't do it if it wasn't for congregations. So when we say Partners for Africa, we mean congregations like you that help us in different ways. But this congregation is Signal Mountain in Chattanooga. And so we said we needed shoes, and they wanted to do some sort of drive, clothing drive or whatever. So we said, get us shoes. So they solicited 15 congregations from Signal Mountain all the way to Atlanta. And they collected 20,000 pairs of shoes with 20,000 pairs of socks. And I mean, it's just quite amazing that so many children who've never had shoes today are running around Africa, you know. So we are thankful for that. Well, there's some of them right there. That's a church in Zambia right there that got some shoes, and then they gave it out to their community as well. Just so excited, you know, a pair of shoes. Some ladies did pillowcase dresses, and the third one hasn't got hers yet, but she will. But they were so excited with the pillowcase dresses. So we built a clinic, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, and we're building a high school. And you can't have a long-lasting work if it's not self-sustaining. I mean, you just have to have that. Do we want to still be coming here 10 or 15, 20 years from now and still asking for the same? Or is the church going to be moving on in Africa? It has to be that way. And so one of our projects to self-sustain the work there, and I told the elders when I met with them this morning that we're paying for the clinic, and one reason is because of our agriculture. So we've just planted some watermelon there. This has just happened. And let me tell you, there's no off season. We grow all year round. So that's a blessing. Look at our cabbage. It looks so good. And that's, of course, you're familiar with drip irrigation. So every cabbage head has a hole in that rubber tube, and comes the water and the fertilizer to that very plant. And that's why it can look so good. You can see it coming there, and it's so quite amazing. And all of it's run now by solar panels. We used to have diesel generators. And it's becoming a thing of the past now, and makes it so much cheaper now also to produce crops. When you want to get the generator going so you can pump the water into the tank so you get your water, now you just got that solar panels, which is awesome. And we thank you for the tractor. And the tractor leaves Friday with a plow and a disc and a seed planter given by the West Dyersburg Church. And by the way, that's my second grandson sitting on it. And he's going with us to Africa in a few weeks, and he's heartbroken that he'll have to miss an extra 3 days of school. Joking. Okay, amazing. So here's Amazon Clinic. This is, my wife is in the center, and those are our nurses, and the guy in the blue clothes, he takes care of our property. We were open 2016. In the last 2 years, we've been voted the #1 rural clinic in Zimbabwe. And just 134 babies. Those babies would have been born. A lot of them wouldn't have survived. And the rest of them will be born on the floor in a mud hut with no help whatsoever from medical. I mean, they didn't have anything there. That's why we built the clinic. And so we're not only saving lives, but we have an opportunity to share the gospel. Do you know that that's the waiting room where my wife is? And that woman, that mother there started coming. She gave birth there, and she brings a baby for checkups. And every time she comes, she has a Bible study. And we've got some people that take care of the children. And that day she was baptized. And so just want you to know that the end game is not that they receive medical help, physical. The end game is that they know the great physician. That's the end game. And so you think of the impact when you've immunized over 6,000 children. Think of the impact that you're making. Unbelievable. And so now we're getting down to it. Now I'll be through in just a minute, but I just want you to see that Amazon Christian Academy opens in 2020. We've got this high school going. We'll be going in 2020. We already have, we had to clear the land. They gave us 70 acres of bush. And you know who cleared the land? It was the mothers and grandmothers, because their children had never got a high school education. They knew they were going to get it. And they were just excited about it. So then we had to come in, we had to drill a well. There's the tank. The water comes. We built a reservoir, hold about 70,000 gallons of water. We need 2 or 3 different water sources. Here come the trucks, start construction with cement and bricks. There's a slab poured, and I wanted you to see there's no wooden frame. It's all bricks. And so one of the buildings is going up already, and we're excited about that. We also built a place for them to come and worship. And the brethren did this new congregation that was started in November with 11. Last Sunday they had 70 worshiping there, and they said we're going to build out something on the campus. And so they built something very indigenous, and it's tremendous. I was just kind of blown away by it, But look at 74 churches that have been planted in 11 years, and 4 new congregations, of course, and those elderships. We're excited about that. And so this was part of the church that got it going, and we wanted you to see them. But we want you to see our faculty. This is our faculty that begins with the freshman class in 2020. The guy on the left is a guy from Zimbabwe. He came to Freed Hardman, and he was student body president after 2 years. Nkosi Lati Mpofu, he made quite a stamp there. He spoke at the lectureship also more than once. He got to meet Condoleezza Rice, and he had quite a great experience coming out of basically just a mud hut in Africa, no running water, and he's done so well. And him and his wife have gone back, and then we have the other couple in the middle are from Zimbabwe, and then the other couple is from Selma, Tennessee. And they are all there now working, Every one of them will have their master's degree in 2020 when the school opens, and they'll all have a BA in Bible. And so we are excited, between the ages of 27 and 32. So they got time to give, you know, to get this up and running. So that's where we are. So I'll close with this slide. I just want to encourage you to come. And I'm not soft padding it, because I want you to know it's a long flight. But we take a direct flight from Atlanta to Johannesburg. It's about 13 and a half, 14 hours. And then we have spend the night, and we have our flight going in. But the reason I say all that is to let you know, in spite of all of that, look how our numbers are growing each year. And this year we're going to have the biggest number ever. And so we would like for you to, you know, put Africa on your bucket list and come with us. Jeremy has talked about coming maybe next year. Maybe we can have a group to come next year. But thank you for your time and listening to me. Does anybody want to maybe just ask a question? Yes. It's $6,000 to drill a well, and that is to take the survey, which has to be 90%. Otherwise, we don't drill. And that provides the pipes, the hand pump, and drip irrigation. Those, yeah.
I was in Kenya a few years back at the University of in Kisumu, and they had a program from the school where they went out to the villages and taught health care. Did you have something similar to that
Yes.
in the works?
Yes, well, yes, we're already thinking along those lines. We wanted to get our clinic up and running, and then after, we wanted to give it 2 years, you know, knowing that we got it all together, everything, the government feels good about it and everything, because you got to get approved for it. So what we're going to be doing in 2020, we're going to start bringing in medical teams, and some of those teams are going to be training some of our medical staff to go and do exactly what you said. So yes, we're behind, but we're heading that way. And that's very important. In fact, we have a nurse right now. A lot of those mothers live way deep in the bush, and they can't bring their children for their checkups always. So she's got a little motorcycle, and she just goes through those bush paths and goes and visit them. Yeah. Well, thank you. You sounded like you understood what I said. I married a girl from Alabama, and I tell people, I said, you know, I loved her accent and she loved my accent, and it worked out really well, you know. But thank you for your time. Appreciate it.